Hey guys, Don Bruno here. Welcome back.
How's it going, guys? Great to have you back. Um, Today, we're going to be talking about lease to own.
That's what we're here for, guys. All right, so if you're at this video and you're going in order, which we told you you should be, stop skipping ahead. We know you're doing it. You have, listen, we do it too, but you want to stick to the curriculum. We have a really cool setup here, and we don't want to overwhelm you, so that's why we kind of do it this way. But lease to own. You know, we've talked about wholesaling. We've talked about the different ways that we can make money in real estate, and there are so many. But there's nothing that comes close to this. This is going to give you the ability to start really making some differences now. Start getting some cash now. Start getting some deals under your belt, and then you can go off and explore. But Hunter, why don't you give them a little rundown on how a basic lease to own option works?
Yeah. So basically, how it'll work is you're going to go out and you'll find, say, a seller. And the seller, for sale by owner, they'll either be trying to rent their property or they'll even be trying to sell their property. And the great thing about this, first I want to mention, is the fact that this isn't like wholesale or anything like that, where the price has to be right, because 9 times out of 10, the price is already right. So you'll go and you'll find these sellers, and you'll basically approach them and you'll just ask them, hey, would you consider doing rent to own for your property? And what that means is, if they say yes and they agree, they will allow someone to draw a monthly rent that property for a certain amount of time, and then at the end of that certain amount of time or lease, the tenant living there has the right and the option to then buy that property. And the reason that it helps out the seller is because, say that we're selling their home, they're going to get the full market value price for their home. So it's not like they're having to give up any money. And in addition to that, they're also getting a monthly income coming in from the buyer or the tenant who is in there. And then, so we're talking about the seller. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the buyer and how it kind of works from their end of the deal. And so in regards to the buyer, what you'll have is, say, you have someone, they make decent money. They just might not have any credit built up yet. They can't qualify for a mortgage yet. And so what this allows for them to do is to not be throwing their rent money away for nothing. They're not just going into a place, renting an apartment, knowing full well they're not going to end up living there. This is benefiting the buyer because they're getting the right to be able to purchase the place later on after a couple years once they get their credit up. And not only that, but they have a place that really feels like it's theirs, because it probably will be. And so it benefits both parties, really.
We're trying to make win-wins here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're trying to make win-win-wins because we want to win too. So what we're doing is we're finding the sellers, we're finding the buyers, and we're solving a problem, right? Well, when we're doing this, we want to, first off, we always want to find the seller first. It's going to be a lot harder to find the seller, and it's a lot easier to be able to sell a deal that we already have. If you got the deal already, it's a lot easier to find the buyer that's going to be able to benefit off this deal than going out and finding a buyer and then trying to find a property for that person. So it's always better to find the seller first. Find the seller, and that's in any real estate deal. But yeah, we want to create win-win-wins. We want to solve a problem. So when we're going to these sellers, the thing about lease to own is you do not need a motivated seller. Some of these people will be motivated sellers. Some of them will not. All right. We're going after people that are, one, renting and not even thinking about selling, or we're going after people that are selling and not thinking about renting. So we're disrupting these two worlds, right? We're sending out a text blast, And if you're in, if you're in our Property Pros membership, you're going to be getting access to our leads list. You're going to be getting your own phone number. You're going to be getting calls forwarded. We're going to be sending you leads to your phone. We're going to be sending you leads to your email. So you're going to have you're going to have a very packed few days where you're going to just be thrown into a whirlwind of leads and buyers, and it's going to be tough to keep up with at first. All right, so we're going to have to test the waters. We're going to have to see who you're going to be able to follow up with, and if you're able to take care of this, and you're able to really go through this list, stay dedicated, and know that everybody that we send to you is, in fact, it's a warm lead. You're not soliciting, you're not salesy, you're not telemarketing here. You're reaching out to people that are waiting to hear from you. These people have put an ad out there, and you're responding to it. And what we are doing is we're sending a text blast out to about 1,000 different ads, and we're getting responses. All right, and here's where Hunter comes in. He's going to sift through all these ads and pick out, he's going to get rid of all the no's, and he's going to give you the interest. He's going to give you the yes, maybes, tell me mores, I'm interested. And that's when we're going to send to you. So everybody that you get is already prepped. They already have an idea that you're interested in buying the property, rent to own, and they are at least willing to hear you out. So we're doing 90% of the work. We're doing 90% of the work, but that 10%, it's a big 10%. So, you have to really learn how to talk to these guys. You have to learn the psychology of who you're talking to, who you're dealing with. And like I said, it's solving a problem. Because just like when you go to a doctor, they're not just going to give you, they're not just going to come and just start writing out things and whatever a medicine without properly diagnosing the problem. You need to find out what their motivation is. Why are they selling the house? What is motivating them to get rid of this house? Do they have a hospital bill? Are they behind on their bills? Is there a death in the family? A lot of reasons why they are on a for sale by owners ad on Craigslist or whatever platform we get them off of. And it really takes into consideration what their options are. So if you go through, that's why we kind of teach you all of the different aspects of real estate investing, because we want you to be able to speak to these sellers, give them all their options, and we want to kind of drive them into thinking that this is the best option, as long as it is, because you don't want to. The reason why it is, though, is because, as Hunter was explaining, where it's the win-win. They want to get their property at the most that they could possibly get for. The reason they're dealing with us is because they don't want to deal with realty fees. So that's what's benefiting them. And the buyers, they're dealing with us because they obviously they can't afford it right now. They want to hold on to that, and that's how we get paid. They are going to buy the lease agreement from us.
Right. And from our experience, it's not like Dom said, if you do opt in to get the leads from us, which I'll be providing to you, these aren't people who are rude. These aren't people. I mean, you might come across people like that, but for the most part, people are genuinely interested in how you can help them. And as Dom said, that's really how you have to approach it. We're here to help people. We are in the business of helping people. Yes, we want to make money, and that's great. But you will not make a dime until you have that mindset of, I am helping somebody. And I guarantee you, at the end of the day, no matter how much money you have coming in, knowing that you are matching up a seller and a buyer who are both benefiting from this, it's an incredible feeling, because it is truly a win-win-win for everyone. And that's the kind of mindset that we want you to adopt and have going into each of these deals.
Yep. And also, you really want to. It's going to be a little more difficult if you're not in the Property Pros. If you're not in Property Pros membership and you're doing this on your own, it is something you want to think about, because you are taking this from a different approach. And we're trying to give you as much information as possible with the videos. We're trying to give you as much information. We're trying to give you as much access as possible with the other members. And that's why we talk about how important it is to be out there and helping the other members, talking about it, discussing. Because if you're teaming up with that accountability partner, You're going to be able to have access to things that you might not, be able to do on your own. One of the main things that really started making a change in this business when me and Hunter had decided to team up together was his experience with funnels, his experience with marketing. I had a little longer with this. I had more experience with it. So it started out with him actually asking me, how was it with that real estate agent? He was marketing for a real estate agent and had a couple of questions. And we were both, when you're trying to run a one-man agency, there are no such thing as one-man agencies. The best thing you can do, and I think the most valuable portion of this course, is the accountability partner. If you can't sell, if you're not good on the phone, team up with someone who is, all right? Then you can have a system where you find the leads, they sell, together you're going to make a ton of money, all right? Think volume, think scalability. And going back to sellers, getting into the mindset of the sellers. You don't want to be salesy. This is what we say sell, but you got hard sales and you got soft sales. We're coming at this from a complete soft sell. This isn't Wolf of Wall Street, walk down the throat, buy or die, all right? We want to really, we want to nurture them. We want to befriend them, get them in, and we want them, the best way to get somebody to know, like, and trust you, to like you, is to let them talk about themselves, to understand their problem. And you also don't want to come off like a company, all right? You want to say that you're an investor. I usually wait about 5 minutes into the call before I really start getting into wanting to purchase the property for anything but living in it. Not to say that you're not lying, but you want to imply. Let them know you let them get involved in the conversation first, because it kind of switches things up when you do that. But yeah, the subtle differences between wholesaling and lease to own. We're not actually selling the property. The house, there's no closing deal. This can be done very quickly. And it all comes down to, did we talk about it? The contract? I don't think I heard anything about the contract, Hunter.
No, we did not go into specifics on the contract. You want to do that now?
Yes. All right.
All right. So basically, guys, with the contracts and how it works is, and dealing with the sellers is like we were saying, we'll approach them and ask them if they're open to a rent to buy option. And if they are, then we basically give them a contract that'll list what they would like to sell the property for, what their monthly rent would be. And then we get them to sign it, put the date and everything, all that good stuff. And we sign it. And basically what that agreement does, it's a lease option agreement, is it gives us the right to be able to market their property to buyers. It's extremely important to have that contract signed for two reasons. For one, for legal purposes, first and foremost. And we're not hiding anything. It says on the contract, we're not realtors, we're not brokers, we're not taking a fee from them at all. So that's number one, is the legality. Very, very important. And number two, it's very important because on the lease agreement, it lists what we're trying to do, how the deal is going to work. It doesn't keep them in the dark at all on anything, which is how it should be. And so this one contract covers you from a legal standpoint, and it helps the seller to understand where you're coming from in the process and going through it. And then, so that was the seller. For the buyer, we have a contract in place there too. And for the buyer, what you're going to do is you're basically going to be filling out their information and transferring that lease option agreement over to them in exchange for a predetermined amount or a fee. And that fee that you're going to collect is going to be your revenue for your work of finding that seller and that buyer. Now, something very important to note is, you're not allowed to just go and find this buyer, whoever you want it to be, to take over. Obviously, the seller has to approve of the person that you're going to get to be buying. But what you are going to realize very quickly is that, we said before, these buyers aren't people who are, deadbeat people. They're people who usually make an honest living, a great living. They just maybe have no credit and can't afford a mortgage. So 9 times out of 10, if the seller really,
what is the lease what does the lease fee usually average out to?
I'd say the lease fee usually average. We like to go for a minimum of 5,000, and that is a minimum. But usually it'll be $10,000 and upwards. And one more thing I want to point out also is this isn't just for lower income properties or lower end. There are deals that happen with rent to own for $1 million properties. We encourage you to stick to your area and the property and the areas that you know. But in terms of scaling up, it's definitely scalable to get to those higher properties. And typically what you'll collect is 5% on what the seller is trying to sell the property for, which can add up very, very quickly.
Yeah. That's why we want to go for volume, guys. We want to go for volume. And it all boils down to calling. Dial. Oh, man. The opportunity here, this is a very scalable business. It's very niched. All right. We are helping a certain type of people. And it's really just competence. The only way you're going to get these sellers to believe in you or believe you're competent, that you're going to get them to sign this contract, is if they think you're competent, is if they think you're an expert in your field, that go-to person. So although you're not an expert, you're not going to be, but the more calls you make, the more you do it, the more you're going to learn, and the better you're going to sound. So what we're doing is we're trying to, the only way that's going to work is if you get on the phone and you do it, and you do it, and you do it about 100 times. And after about 100 times, you're going to start to get a little more comfortable. Some will pick up faster than others, but it's just practice. So get out there, keep making these calls. Eventually, you won't be an expert, but you don't need to be. You just need to be a few steps ahead and be able to help your seller. If you do that, you're going to make deals.
Exactly. And one last thing I always like to keep in mind too, we say $5,000 as a minimum, but if you make $2,000 on your first deal, work for that first deal, getting that first deal done, because what we find is you can get that first one done, you can get that second one done a lot easier, and then the third, and you're just going to start rolling, and you really won't believe what you'll be able to accomplish in a short period of time.
Quickly, does the homeowner get anything on the down payment?
Oh, for the down payment.
Yes.
It's a very important aspect of it. Really, it's kind of in your hands, and it'll be different from deal to deal. You might find some homeowners that when you tell them the agreement and how you're getting paid and everything, they're going to want some of the down payment. Sometimes it's in your best interest to say no and to reiterate how good of a deal they're getting, because they really are.
Yeah.
Other times, which I'd say the majority of the time, you're going to want to do that. But if you were getting a very sizable amount from transferring over that lease option agreement, then, take the deal rather than not take it. If the homeowner wants a little bit of the down payment, then, try not to be greedy. And
in the beginning, it's going to be very, you're going to want it. It's going to be very enticing to take that deal. If they're saying, we're not doing this, we want half that down payment, or they might even say they want all the down payment. You're going to find some buyers that are very, they're going to think that their property is worth a certain amount. Then they're going to have a problem with you making 10% or 5% or whatever you decide to charge. And that really boils down to, like Hunter said, things get a lot easier once you get your first deal down. So maybe, we suggest if that's what it's going to take for you to get that deal and that first one, then do it. Get that out of the way. You might want it's going to inspire you and going to get you really seeing the opportunity here. But after that, you're going to see that we have so many leads. And if you're in the property pros, you're going to have so many leads, you're going to have so many aces. Go for the deals that make sense, volume, and really it's a numbers game. So the more you call, the more you're going to, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. Simple as that. But well, we are going to go into, for the next couple of videos, we're going to go into actually the motivated sellers, talking about getting really down into what kind of questions to ask, what kind of, what you want to do to actually build up your buyers list. So, Hunter, you have anything to add?
No, that's it. Hopefully this video was helpful, guys, and can't wait to see you in the next one.
All right. We'll see you soon.